What's going on, guys? My name's Jeff and this is Mad Hatter's Reef, and today we're going to be doing an update on my new reef tank build. I hope everybody is having a fantastic day, and if you're new to what we're doing here, this is where I talk about everything reef tank related. So if you love reef tanks like I do, make sure you smash that subscribe button. Alright folks, so it's been a couple weeks since I've done an update on the Waterbox aquarium build that I've been working on, so that's what we're going to be doing today. Blah blah blah, let's jump into it.
Alright guys, so I finally did it. I finally cut the plastic off the tank. And a little bit of advice, if you are going to pick yourself up a Waterbox aquarium, I actually would probably cut the plastic off before you put it on the stand, because it was a little difficult to take the plastic off the tank once it was in place. And the boy did not waste any time at all getting his fingers all over the glass once that plastic was cut off, which was about what I figured what would happen. And they were having a snow day, and I had some things planned but wasn't able to do that because I stayed home with the kids, and I decided I would work on the tank. So there's a number of different things that needed to get done. One of those things was getting the extension cord or surge protector installed in the stand. And even though that the Waterbox aquarium stand is made of plywood, I really don't want to go drilling into it. So I decided to go with some heavy-duty double-sided Velcro. Now, this is something that I originally bought for the 220-gallon, and I was going to use it for cable management. And I don't know if you guys have noticed in my videos in the past, or maybe you haven't noticed, I don't know, but I am horrible at cable management. And that's something that I want to do a little bit better in this build. And at first I wasn't 100% certain how well this was going to work. I figured I'd give it a shot. At the worst, I'd probably would just have to scrape the glue off from the stand if the Velcro didn't work. Right here you see me kind of cutting it to size for the surge protector, and this was a relatively inexpensive surge protector I picked up from a big box store. I needed a specific surge protector because I have the stand so close to the wall that I needed one that kind of, I don't know what they call it, I'm sure there's a name for it, but it comes out at an angle. It doesn't just directly plug into the wall because it's such a small space. And this was a cheap one, even though it has a very thick gauge wire. It wasn't more than $8, I think. And so basically what I did is I cut the Velcro to size, put it on the back, and then just pressed and held it on the stand. I think it was for about 20 seconds or so. And I was actually really impressed with how well this worked. That thing's on there. And I'm going to have to test it, obviously, because it's pretty close to the sump. And if it were to fall into the sump, that'd be a really bad deal. But hopefully it works out pretty well. Next up, I decided to cut the plastic off the sump. And again, I would strongly recommend, if you guys are going to buy a Waterbox aquarium, that you remove the plastic before you put it in place. Because right here what I'm doing is I'm struggling to get out the corners, the little corner board corners that are on the tank, and I have the piping installed in there, so I didn't really have a whole lot of room to work with. But ultimately I was able to get the plastic off and not damage the sump and or the return pipes. Once I had that figured out, I decided to put sand in the tank, and I wanted to go with some fine sand in this tank. And I had a couple of bags of sand kicking around, decided to put in the tank, and realized it was way too much sand, so I ended up taking a lot of it out. I do have a very small millimeter of sand in there, and ultimately I'm pretty happy with the stuff. I think it's going to work out pretty well for me, and I didn't want to go too deep of a sand bed, but at the same time wanted to have a good sized sand bed in the tank. I was shooting for about 3 inches, and that's not really enough to be considered a deep sand bed. Deep sand beds 4 to 6 inches deep, and there's different purposes for each one and different things that people can achieve with them. I do have a pretty detailed video on substrate and the importance of it and what the different sizes can do for you. And I'll be sure to link that in the description below. So for anybody who is interested in that, just go down there, check that out. I'll have that video for you there. Next up, I decided to put some live rock, well, dry live rock in the tank. And this is actually footage from a video I did for Premium Aquatics a couple weeks ago. Now, when they sent this to me, we had talked about doing this video a long time ago. They sent me this box filled with live rock, and it couldn't have been better timing. Now, the importance of this is two things. One, I'm going to put a link to this video in the description below, so if you guys want to check it out in a little bit more detail, you can do that, and that's over at the Premium Aquatics channel. This is real reef rock. They have giant pools that are filled to the rim of real reef rock, and it's live real reef rock sold by the pound. There's not another company out there that does this. So you can go to premiumaquatics.com and purchase this by the pound, and it is going to get shipped to you, and it is live real reef rock. So it's man-made, it's aquacultured, you don't have to worry about what they're taking out of the ocean, and it is biologically active. So that is pretty awesome that they go this extra mile to put a product like this out there for hobbyists. The best part being that since it's real reef rock, it already has that pink and purple pigments put into it, so it looks like it's loaded with coralline algae. So you don't have to have this stuff in a tank for years. If you are looking for that beautiful pink and purple rock, you can literally have a tank set up today and it looks like it's been up for years. So this stuff is absolutely stunning. It looks better than live rock that I've bought in the past, and I am incredibly impressed with it. And that's actually, ultimately, I'm doing these reviews for Premium Aquatics, and I love the stuff so much that I end up buying it for myself and my tanks. And that just goes to show what kind of products they are putting out there. So they sent me 3 different types of rock. They sent me the shelf, the Tonga branch, and the regular rock. And I wasn't 100% blown away by the shelf, but the one thing that the shelving did offer me was the ability to have a more open aquascape and be able to create some different layers to it, which kind of helped overall with the aquascape of the tank. And by all means, this isn't enough rock for this tank, but it's a good start. I do have plans on buying more rock for the tank, not just the real reef rock. I actually am going to buy real live rock. And the reason being some of the experiences that I've had with the 220 gallon. I strongly believe at this point in time that my 220 gallon tank has struggled as much as it has because I have bought 100% dry rock for that tank. And I know that we are in this culture, or have been in this culture for a long time, where you need to avoid having pests in your tank. That's the worst thing that could ever happen to you, that you have pests in your tank. It's like the plague. But there is a certain amount of benefits that come with real live rock, mostly due to the biodiversity on that rock. And I think that there's something that is lacking in my 220 gallon due to the fact that I only had dry rock. And I'm hoping with this build that I can reverse that with using live rock. I'm not going to use a ton. I'm going to have maybe 10 pounds put in the tank, and hopefully that 10 pounds seeds the tank and puts me on the right path to a successful reef tank. I am going to be very careful about the way that I introduce the live rock into the tank, hopefully to minimize any potential pests in the tank. I am going to cook it for a while, and I used air quotes. I know you can't see me right now, but I did air quotes on the cooking of the live rock. And I'm gonna need the tank up and running to be able to put that live rock in the tank and get the benefits of it. So that's going to be something that gets added down the road, but hopefully it's successful.
All right, folks, so next week I'm hoping that I'm going to have the water ready to go into the reef tank, and then we're going to start the cycling process. Now, I have quite a few videos on how to cycle a reef tank, but we're going to go through the entire thing just for everybody who maybe has not seen that video. And what this is really going to do is illustrate how easy it can be to actually cycle a reef tank. You don't have to wait a month to get this up and running. It's actually something that you can do relatively fast, and it's one of the few things that you can do relatively quickly in this hobby, and it's not going to be a complete disaster. So next week I will be showing you guys how I go about cycling my reef tank with Dr. Tim's One and Only. But all that aside, I still need to get some more rock for the tank, and I'm actually going to go out and buy real live rock for this tank because I want to seed this tank with a real thing. In the past, especially with the tank behind me, I used 100% dry rock, and that hasn't worked out so well for me. And I'm hoping that I'm going to see a little bit more success with using actual live rock in this build, and hopefully that's going to avoid some of the problems that I've experienced with the 220 gallon. I want to thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for all the support here on Mad Hatter's Reef with the website, the podcast, all that stuff. And yes, there is going to be more episodes of the podcast coming very soon. That's it for today, but don't worry because there's plenty more Mad Hatter Reef videos to go around.